I set the charity up a couple of months after Hollie was killed, purely because I didn't really want Hollie just to fade away and be another statistic. You know, she was too good for that. She was a bright, bubbly, effervescent person with a real character, and she loved her hairdressing, and she loved how she could change her appearance by the way that she had her hair, the color, the cut, and she was really into her hairdressing and her beauty. And I thought, well, that's too much to waste, and you know, can we prevent the Hollies of the future happening? And you know, that was the reason why I set up the trust a couple of months after she was murdered, really, purely to help prevent these things happening. I thought at that time, if I could help save one person and help save one family going through what we go through, then you know, we'll all be worthwhile. But never in the month of Sunday did I understand or expect how the charity has grown and the vast volume of people that we are either educating or we are actually helping and preventing them from going through what Hollie went through. We're a charity set up. We get no government funding. We get no statutory funding. We have to raise all the money ourselves to be able to do what we do. And you know, we could do a lot more if we had funding. We're doing some local authority work. We do loads of work in schools. Every week we get new schools come to us and say, can you come and help us? Can you come and help us? And we know the need is out there, but the funding's not there to be able to deliver. We could prevent a lot of these things from happening. We can change that culture over a period of time. You know, I know culture changes take a long time, but if you don't start, you don't hit your targets. If the funding was there, if we get the right structure in place, get the right training of the police, the CJS, young people, everyone then is aware of what can happen. People are more aware of these issues now, but I still don't think there's enough education and enough training out there to the general public for them to identify stalking. It's okay for some of the professionals. I don't think the police are particularly well trained on identifying stalking and stalking behaviours, and I know that for a fact from the feedback that I get. You know, when we talk about stalking behaviours, we talk about stalking protection orders as an example that came in a few years ago. I was in a training session with not Gloucestershire force, it was another force, and there were police officers in the room, and some of the police officers didn't know what a stalking protection notice was, or sorry, a stalking protection order was. But if you don't know, how can you help a victim, and how can you impose or apply for a stalking protection order as a remedy to help the investigation and protect the victim? So I don't think there's enough education in police forces. I think police, particularly a lot of frontline officers, are totally unprepared for dealing with stalking. There are some specialist units in certain forces and some really good officers, but I think the general rank and file, I don't think, are able to either identify when stalking is happening or be able to help the victim or the perpetrator. I don't think there's enough training done, and we try and do as much as we can. Say we trained 15,000 people in the last 5 years. There's not enough done in schools, not enough done in other groups. It's getting better, but if we don't train people, we don't get them to understand when these things are happening or what the risk factors are or the red flags or the behaviors, then people aren't going to identify it with it. So it's going to happen, but they don't know what it is happening to them. If they can't identify it, then how can they report it? Or how can they seek the guidance and the direction that they need to extricate them out or extricate them out from these situations, whether it's stalking or whether it's domestic abuse? I don't think there are enough resources out there and enough funding out there to be able to deal with these issues. So let's say, for example, in Gloucestershire, we have we've got two now ISAC, so independent stalking advocacy caseworkers, who can handle maybe 50 to 100 cases, high risk cases, medium risk cases in a year. Talking about the stats, that's probably less than 0.1% of people who are stalked. So we just don't have the stalking support services out there who are adequately funded and people in place to be able to handle this. How are we going to move forward? We're not. I think the government have got to fund this adequately. They've got to put more money into it to get the support services out there. They've got to get more ISACs trained and in position into these counties. So, we should have a dozen ISACs here to handle stalking cases. It should be on every agenda in schools to identify these behaviours. We do a lot of work in there, and we know that the good that it does. So we can identify it. People can then come forward to say that it's happening to them. We can get them the right support, and hopefully we can eradicate some of these issues and prevent them from escalating down the line. Because we know with stalking and with coercive and controlling behaviours, as they are behaviours, if they go unchecked and unchallenged, they escalate. And when they escalate, they become more dangerous. And this is what leads to domestic homicides or stalking homicides. Whenever I hear someone losing their life who's been stalked or coercive control, it just gives you that knot in your stomach, and you think, I'm not another person. When are we going to learn from this? When are we going to protect particularly our young people? Because we're going to continually see these types of homicides occur because we're not handling them correctly. When Hollie had her DHR, the outcome of that DHR was that Hollie's death could not be predicted and it couldn't be prevented. And I argued against that. That's wrong, because it could be predicted. Look at all the evidence. If you put all the pieces together, you could have predicted that. And if you can predict something, you can potentially prevent it from happening. There's lots of research been done. There's lots of tools out there, but actually we've got to plow money into this to try and help protect our young people. And every time we have a homicide, that's horrendous. But it's not just the homicides. It's all those that people that suffer in silence that you don't hear about because they're too frightened to speak up or to not able to speak up. Follow us on the various social media platforms that we're on. Because we send out lots of information, lots of tips, lots of just snippets around stalking, domestic abuse. So like us, share, repost, so we can get those messages out there. We know a lot of people use social media, particularly young people, and that's where we got to get them when they're young, so that they understand. So that's what we ask people to do for us, is to like and share and join us on social media. Similarly with Hollie Guard, we've got Hollie Guard socials as well. Send out lots of information. Download Hollie Guard, because you never know when you might need it. The base app is free. If you can, arrange some fundraising for us, because we're always looking for funds. As I mentioned to you, we don't get any statutory funding. We don't currently have any grant funding. We have to raise all the money ourselves to deliver what we need to deliver, and we are quite creative in doing that. But it's hard work, but we need the support of the public, particularly through finance and businesses, to be able to carry on doing what we're doing. If we don't get the funds in, then we can't do what we currently do. And the feedback that we get from schools and colleges, universities, even police forces that we train, it's invaluable. But there's a cost to it. So anything people can do to help fundraise, anything people do to hold their own events, and raise awareness of the trust, then we'd be happy if they would do so.